Hey everyone, Greg here. As you may know by now, I'm the co-founder and CEO of TripShock, an online reseller for water sports and tours. For the past 12 years, we've had the pleasure of working with hundreds of operators across the country, and we're looking to grow our community. It's free to sign up, and you only pay when we bring you confirmed bookings. We'll help you reach new customers, fill empty seats, and grow your business like so many have done with us over the years. Head over to partners.tripshock.com to learn more about our program, read testimonials, or speak directly with our supply team. As always, thank you for listening and enjoy the show.
They come to relax, enjoy the beach, have fun, and spend money. And that's where we come in. This is the Awkward Watersport Guys podcast. Find out tips on the best ways to market and operate a water sports business. If you're a water sports operator, you need to grow your brand, operate more safely, upgrade your operations, and of course, increase bookings. We're industry veterans, broadcasting from Destin, Florida. This is the Awkward Watersport Guys podcast. And this is Kevin O'Neill and Greg Fisher.
Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 40 of the Awkward Watersport Guys podcast. Today on the show, we're going to be talking with CEO and co-founder Jason Morehouse of Checkfront.
Yeah, so guys, this is something, you know, like when we like get guests and stuff, like usually Greg brings like all the smart people. And so anybody that I've asked on the show, I know I might have just low-key said that you were dumb. That's not what I mean. That's not what I mean. But I just want to put it out there that this was mine. I got somebody on the show. Greg does so much for the show. He works his butt off. He like built the website. He edits. He gets our guests, and then I just come on and fucking disenfranchise everybody and make fun of them and swear a lot. And I'm like, man, I got to bring some cool people on the show. So this is like a big moment for me, you know?
Yeah, you sure this wasn't like some Nigerian mail scam where Jason got scammed to come onto the show? And
correct. That's exactly
he was promised
a night
$400 million USD.
I did.
You know, okay.
Yeah, I fished him. I totally fucking fished him. He's Canadian, so I promised him like a fucking tickets to a hockey game. he's like, I'm in.
You know, Jason, the Checkfront is one of the, I'd say, like top 5 largest res systems in North America. I know I think they said 5,000 clients, and they have a different pricing model than most. They have a subscription-based, a monthly subscription. They also have the pay-per booking. They have a very robust, flexible system. They just raised some money. We'll be talking about that with him. But overall, he was very informative, and we talk about a handful of different topics regarding, you know, res tech in the future. So what do you think? Should we just get into the interview?
No, man. I wanted to say this, that like if you guys weren't like, if you don't catch it in the show, like the dude's kind of like a super low key badass. Like my mom, dad, or somebody I know, well, one of my family members, you say walk soft, carry a big stick, right? And that's what I got from him. You know, like you got Fair Harbor, you got Peak Pro. They're supposed to be like the big titans, you know. And he did on the show what he did on the stage at Arrival, which, because I'm assuming, because like I said before, it was hard for me to hear him, but everybody that could hear him was cheering for him, because he was just like, he kind of stood up to those two guys. Like they're arguing amongst themselves, and then he just got up and he was just like, no, we're the best. And I was like, fuck yeah, dude. Hell yeah. And like, I don't know. I really like that kind of swagger, man. And I thought it was a great show, and I was really excited to have him. So yeah, man. Yeah, like, let's get into it, man. Let's get awkward.
Yeah, let's get awkward. Let's do it. All right, guys. We're here with Jason Morehouse, Checkfront CEO and co-founder. Jason, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
Jason, as we like to do, I'd like to get to know a little bit about what you do, how you started Checkfront, and a little bit about that background story.
Sure, absolutely. And again, I wasn't aware of this podcast, but I did check it out. I checked out the one with Douglas, which was great. But I was like, what have I signed up for?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, get ready, man. I fucking, poor Douglas, man. He thought he was coming on to some real professional podcast, and then I was like hitting him with all my... I have a weird sense of humor, and so I was hitting him with it, and he was definitely like, I'm happy you said good things about us, because I was like, man, These poor guys, man, they have no. I mean, with Greg, if it was just you and Greg, you guys would all be like, yes, you know, da da da, da and then, but then I come in, I'm like a wild card, and I got a weird sense of humor. So, despite what you've heard, so. thanks for showing up, man.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I should have researched before, but all good. I think we can have a good...
You just randomly accept requests from strangers on Facebook. Hey, man.
I'm happy to talk industry and whatnot. So I'll give you a bit of background. So Checkfront started, I can't believe it now, but it's almost 10 years ago. So we, you know, I was originally the technical founder, and my background is mostly in like product and traditional e-commerce. I built consumer products. And, you know, for me, the actual story of the company developed when so we had a young family then, who now they're all kind of growing up, which is also crazy. But we had identified, like, when we were trying to book things to do for these kids to get them off their devices, to get them out in the wild, to, you know, go explore their backyards. And I realized that there was just like, I was constantly like on the phone. I was emailing, there was like PayPal buttons, which was gross. And then in speaking to operators, so I'm not an operator. I love to travel. I love to do things, you know, outside. You know, I do have I won't go into that story. That's a longer one, but realized that there was like this consumer frustration in the things that the way that we were interacting with operators. So I built a really small early prototype and got it in the hands of some operators who, you know, were desperate. Although at that point there's still a lot of education. Like there was still people that seemed to think that it was okay to operate their business on like sticky notes and spreadsheets, and so to educate them early on that this is not okay for me. I want to book at like midnight when I have the time to do these things. So long story short, we built out that early kind of system, which evolved obviously over time from you know, 2 or 3 staff members on our side all the way to 100 today. You know, going from a really small cohort of customers to, you know, over 5,000 in, you know, 128 countries or something. But so we took a really pretty lean, bootstrapped model. We let our customers, again, because we're not operators, help us guide them in the feature functionality that they wanted in the product that was going to help them solve the technology problem so they can go and do what they love, which is their business. They quit their job, they're following the dreams, they're, you know, very entrepreneurial, which I can absolutely relate with. And that's what's kept us engaged this long, is that the stories from our customers, and as you know, it's like very broad. Watersports is kind of one of them, but of course there's, you know, whatever Douglas quotes, like 100+ sub verticals, all with different requirements. So I would say we were pretty naive going into it on the requirements of these businesses, because if you are selling in traditional e-commerce, you're selling like coffee mugs or a t-shirt or whatever it might be, or tea cozy. It's not, it's those systems are relatively easy to design, although, you know, there's great companies like Shopify and whatnot that have done, you know, incredible things there. What we noticed is that there could be 2 operators that operate completely differently, even though they're in the exact same vertical. It could be, you know, a jet ski company or a rafting company. Their requirements are so different, and it's not our job to enforce how they should run their business. So what we built early on, and which extends into today, is a very flexible system that can accommodate many, many different verticals. And that's really our big strength when we look at the competitive landscape. It is that we can meet many, many requirements with a very robust system that does, you know, meets many of the requirements of all of these, you know, incredible verticals and companies that, you know, I think Arrival is, you know, deemed in destination or experiential travel. I find it fascinating.
Jason, I want to touch on a couple things. You just said something that I think makes a lot of sense about a jet ski company is going to operate a heck of a lot different than a walking tour. And I know that, you know, just from being in the software business, we started a Trip Shock back in 2009, 2010. So I'm aware of all the challenges. How do you and your Checkfront team navigate that? I mean, you probably have tons of different verticals, tons of different type of categories. How do you try to bridge that together a little bit so you can create a software that works for most instead of a few?
Yeah, and it's not easy. We do set boundaries. So I'll just go like, we're primarily inbound driven, which is different from many of our competitors that have these massive sales teams that are probably constantly, hounding the prospects out there that are looking for software. So we actually get most of our customers coming in through, organically. We do certainly have like content and great content that our marketing team, produces to try to educate and pull customers in. But from that, and the way that the company has evolved, because there's so many of these people coming in looking desperately for solutions to their business, it does go quite broad. And we do have just the most random. There's a long tail of like random customers that are like, hey, I'm a salon or I'm a yoga studio, and this meets my requirements. Again, it goes back to that flexibility. We don't focus on those verticals. We don't show up to those shows, but the way the software was designed, you can book it in, fragmented minutes, quarter minutes, hours, days, weeks, months. Those are the fundamentals that really, when you think about a walking tour or water sports or, an adventure park, with the fundamentals are there within the technology, then the rest is kind of adding on. So we know there's a subset that loves to use waivers, so we built a waiver system. Other ones don't use it. There's people that want gift cards. Some use it, some don't. So it's really just about staying sane in the way we think about our customer segment. So we're not trying to be everything to everybody. We are an in-destination focused company. But yeah, it's complex. Like it's nothing that I had initially expected when building out this company. But again, it's also, I don't know what it is. There's 150, probably more res tech systems out there. Some of them are pretty small, some of them pretty niche. Some of them are just going to be the absolute best res tech system for this, whatever it is. You can name it, Segway Tours, I don't know. But that's not a scalable company. Like, there's a market cap there, which means they're not going to get the investment or have the revenue to build out a more robust experiential platform, if that answers your question.
I have a question. What do you think your role is in your partners, your customers, suppliers, whatever we are in this equation? What is your role in their marketing? Because at the end of the buying experience, they sort of leave my company's Destiny Water Adventures. So they're going to leave Destiny Water Adventures and they're going to fall on Checkfront. They're going to fall on Fair Harbor, Peak Pro, whatever. So what role do you feel that a res tech has in a company's marketing? And how do you apply that across those different verticals?
Yeah, again, it's a tricky one. So, I mean, initially, the initial thing was not, it was like, hey, let's just solve for efficiencies. So you don't have to have 20 people answering emails and getting overbooked. That was just that was it. We were just like, we're going to solve for that. And we did. As the industry evolved, there were certainly more things around like interacting with the OTAs. So we've actually shifted over time. And again, we're not trying to solve every single business problem because that's insane. Got the technology. And then what we would have is operators coming to us saying, great, this is great, or not, because I have to shut my business down because I don't have the seats on the boat filled. Like, I've got the technology, and of course we can't necessarily make a great experience. What we can do is provide the tools and the data for our operators to make really good decisions about their business. So when you have the analytics, when you have the data, when you understand the real fundamentals around your high season, your low season, the amount of staff that you need, when to probably acquire new equipment. I mean, I think data is pretty boring and geeky, but presenting data in a way that operators who aren't, again, normally always that technical to make those decisions is one. The other one is evolving into, lead gen, so marketing. So we do integrate into many of the kind of OTAs, not all of them, because not all of them have open APIs. But what we're leaning into now is really trying to figure out that last 20% of the solution, which is how do we actually help them, not just data-wise, but drive more leads, fill their inventory, fill those seats in the boat, whatever it might be, is something that we're invested time in. So we have launched something which is kind of a front-end tool, which makes sure that our operators have the ability to organically drive business. That's something that we think is like fundamental to an operator's success. If everything is going through Expedia or TripAdvisor, I don't think that we're setting up those operators for success. Do the OTAs have an opportunity, and should that be part of the ecosystem? Absolutely, they're our partners, but it's not high margin businesses traditionally. So when we think about marketing, it's all aspects of that. It's organic, it is channel partners, it's yield management. There's a bunch of things in there that where we think about marketing.
So my follow-up question is that, and maybe it says like one part statement, one part question, but I've noticed this. I've noticed just from the marketing materials I get from Peak that there seems to be this drive in the res tech industry toward, I wouldn't say like necessarily call it like marketing, but pushing this whole idea of like direct sales or, SEO articles or like education for operators. And it's starting to feel like res tech and in certain companies, I don't want to lump all you guys together because you're not a commodity, you're a brand, you're Checkfront, you're not Fair Harbor, you're not Peak Pro, you got your own thing going. But it seems to be like there's this drive to sort of start like bundling in more things. Fair Harbor's got the Fair Harbor distribution network. Peak Pro seems to like really be drilling down on the whole direct marketing side of things, where they're like, oh, we're not owned by an OTA or whatever, booking.com. Mm-hmm. So do you feel that there's a need for you to start, for Checkfront to start putting on different hats in that regard as far as like offerings?
Yeah, and what you're going to find, Peak, I'm trying to remember, like these systems are maturing, right? They're 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years into the game. There's new systems coming. Every time I say a new booking system, I'm like, don't do it. Don't do it. It's like so much work to get to a point of scalability. There's 150 booking systems. There's probably 4 at any meaningful scale, 4 or 5. There's other, regional ones, but what you're going to start to see, and I think this is good, is that these companies, as their technology matures and they're meeting the basic requirements, it could be 90%, it could be 110%, and start to think of other ways to help operators. So you have ResD, which is really focusing in on distribution. You have the Peak is very focused in on kind of marketing. Fair Harbor, are just kind of doing their thing and continuing to progress their products. Similarly with Checkfront, similarly with Zola, similarly with, some of the other ones like Booking Kit. I think it's a good thing in that it's not that we're running out of things to do, but our products at this point are maturing to a point of meaningful functionality.
Being that I have an OTA and a reservation system, we took the route of going niche with our system. I wasn't ready to go to bat with the Checkfronts and the Fair Harbors and the Peaks. We were looking for a very niche industry like jet ski rentals and boat rentals. Really, that's the main focus. Now we have some one-offs, we have some magic shows, we have some helicopter tours, but at the end of the day, like we are building features around a very small segment because, like you said, there's 150, probably double. If you go into the real nitty gritty in some of these markets. Like I just saw one pop up the other day locally here in our area. That's another res system and they claim to have 100 customers. So, I think there's a lot of these systems out there. And at this point, there's so many, where do you go in that direction? So and even from an OTA perspective, our OTA is 90% boating. I think like the next, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the next evolution of res tech OTAs is finding categories and going hard on those. just because it's the do it all OTA and the do it all reservation system is, unless you're one of those 5 or 6 that broke ground and got market share, I think it's very hard to get in. And for someone that has a very niche business and looking for very specific features, I mean, we get crazy requests. I'm sure you do too, Jason. They want okay, so there's an episode of The Simpsons where Homer Simpson created his own car, right? And Homer...
I remember that one.
You remember this? It's The Simpsons. So and the thing is, it was his brother, I think his Marge's brother's car company, and no one could buy the Homer car. No one wanted to buy the Homer car because it was just his car. And it's the same thing in ResTech. Like, if you build all these features, then you're only building it for that one business. And I tell you, we say no 100 times a month to our partners and their features because we're trying to create a niche, but at the same time, we can't create a system that's only good for one person. And that's the difficult side of things. Being now in 2021 with ResTech, because there's just so many opportunities, so many choices.
Yeah, I'm waiting for ResTech that allows for an option for me to punch a customer in the face during the booking process. You know what I mean? Like, I find out, they're doing something and it comes straight through. Wow! So when you guys get that one going, I'm sold.
I'll let our product team know.
No way, dude.
Just
you went hard.
I think like there is apps. So I'm going to contradict myself. Like, if there's an underserviced market, be it watersports or whatever it might be, I'm going to just keep with that one. Or it could be regionally based, or like we bump into like these systems that we don't know. They could be in New Zealand, and they're like, yeah, we got like 500 customers, and we've never even heard of them. And we'll see customers either switching from them or to us, or vice versa. Like, I think that's actually and this goes back to like our original roots, I suppose, is that although we were somewhat broader, like, I think there's an opportunity for smaller ResTech systems to occupy that space, maybe grow into other verticals as they've kind of matured. We've seen that with other competitors that have done reasonably well. But it's the end of the day, like, it's such a big, massive market, and I mean, I'm not a philosopher by any means, but like, I think what's going to happen in short order in the space, in the industry, as we're kind of like normalizing a bit, depending on where you are, I think we're going to see so many more businesses come online, not just like get back into business, but I think there's going to be a shift in people that maybe have this window to do the thing that they really love, that they really wanted to do, over the last 5-6 years. Doesn't matter what it is. They could do dog tours in Alaska or whatever it is. Like, I just think that is coming.
I had no idea where you were going with that. I was like, dog tours. But when you finished, you said Alaska. I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like sled, like snow dogs.
Sleds, yeah, whatever.
Cuba Gooding Jr. movie.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just think there's an opportunity. We don't get into the fist fighting games with competitors. We like to keep them close. I like to speak with them. I want to know them. I think there's just such a massive market. This is not going to be, one dominant ResTech system that is going to acquire all of the operators and all the supply. I just don't see it happening. It's too complex. Yeah, it's just going to be, probably a few of us.
So I got a question, and for both of you guys, since you both have ResTech companies. So what do you say to the operator? So real quick before I ask this question, Jason, how do you charge? What do you? So you don't do a booking fee on the customer's end. You charge the supplier, correct?
So you can do either or. So this goes back to so with us, you just pay a standard subscription fee. It starts at $50 a month, super cheap. Goes up based on your requirements, your volume, the number of staff, that kind of stuff. We do offer like what we call our flex plan, which means if you don't want to pay, if you just like, I don't want an invoice, I don't want a credit card statement, we do the same as Peak, we do the same as Fair Harbor, we do the same as ResD, and we would just charge your customer. Now, I'm not super excited about that plan, to be frank, because we're not driving the business. You're driving the business, right? If it's going through an OTA, they're driving the business. They should get their commissions. I think they're too high. So we do it because we don't want operators to leave or be switched based on pricing. You don't want to bill, we'll do the commission base. You want to pay a subscription fee so you know what you're paying, then we'll do that as well. So we do have a hybrid approach, and I would love to hear Greg's opinion on that.
Yeah, Greg, how do you do? And then I got a follow-up question for both of you.
We started doing a flat monthly fee. And the reason why that died, that opportunity died, is because we could not scale with that number. Now, when we switched from the flat fee to charging on every booking,
what's the charge, Greg?
It's between 4% and 6%.
Okay.
Depending on their volume. If they're larger companies, it's 4. They're smaller companies, it's 6. And plus, we had, some companies. It's funny because when I threw like the $100 a month number, these smaller companies, I couldn't believe it. But when I said we'll charge 6% of every online booking, they jumped up and down and loved it. Even though, if they just decided to take $99 a month and charge that 6% themselves, they would probably make, $1,000 a month. So, but what that did was it gave us the necessary funds to scale faster and have the funds to, hire developers and hire staff. Because if we started with 100 customers, we really missed the ball, because when we started TripShock, we had people in 2011, 2012 asking for reservation systems. And we started developing ours in 2013, but it took us so long that we missed that whole train. By the time we got WaveRes going, it was like 2018, 2019, we missed it. And we focused really heavily on the OTA side. Going back, maybe I would have switched it, but we did switch the monthly fee to the percentage, booking percentage back. I think it was like 2 years after we were in beta. And for us, we had to do that. Like that was the only way for us to scale right. But, and I don't know, Jason, if it's the same, but water sport companies, I'd say, but they're very needy. There's a lot of moving parts to it. And so,
I'm like, dude, I need a podcast partner, and I need you to edit it every week.
But Kevin, just Kevin and I, we're very involved in the industry, and really in Florida in general. And I mean, we have our partners, even though they can do a lot of this stuff themselves, and some of them are probably listening, they call Amber, our account manager, almost every day for making changes. And if we were only getting $99 a month, I couldn't have an Amber.
All right, hold on. This is like, I'm dying to, I got to jump in here because here's my question. The original, what I wanted to say is, so first of all, for anybody that doesn't know, 6% is the magic number because somebody A and B tested this, right? And figured out that 6% was a magic number where there wouldn't be a significant loss of conversions, correct? When people checked out?
I think it's different data source. Again, we go a bit broader. So we have actually seen people that do apply the commission in our platform have a higher abandonment rate. And
that's 6%.
Yeah, so ours is 5%. But.
Okay. So, man, you just completely screwed me up now, man. I mean, I still have this question, but I want to touch on that now. I need to know. So what was when you say significant abandonment rate? I mean, what do you mean? What was
I just
the
said more. So I'm going to misquote my data because I don't have it in front of me. But so again, we have both segments of customers. The majority of our customers are on subscription. There are, I would say, a small percentage that adopt that kind of commission-based billing. We see the the abandonment rate on when they see that fee pop up on the invoice higher when you're paying a commission. When the consumer sees that they're hit with a fee that wasn't included in the initial pricing that they were looking at, there's a higher percentage, and I could get you the actual numbers because.
You don't have to. I would just be interested in knowing that what those numbers were, because I mean I think that would really support a strong argument. Then, I mean, I would imagine the only argument for a subscription base. If you tell me that you're going to charge me whatever it is, $1,000 a month, but I'm going to have significantly more conversions at least enough to justify that or abandonment. In our market, I don't feel like it matters what I do. Like it's like blood in the water. So, but for somebody that conversion really matters, like totally matters, where they're like, man, they're not going to get that back. I would imagine that would be that'd be a really strong argument. Okay, so my question was this: so when you start talking about companies that are doing, like, let's just say, because it's an easy math problem for me to figure out because I'm not good at math, but let's say $10 million a year. So you're talking for Checkfront $500,000 in fees, and then for Fair Harbor $600,000. So how do you close the guy? Because if I'm doing $10 million a year and I'm paying $500,000 in fees, the first thing I'm going to say is, well, why don't I just spend $500,000 and develop my own booking software, ResTech, whatever you want to call it? What'd you say?
Don't do that.
But I mean, there's a lot of companies that have their own, their own checkout, and it's not like, I mean, there's a lot that are horrific, terrible, absolutely terrible. But I mean, what would be that magic number? What would you tell that guy? If I want to spend $1 million on booking software or whatever it may be.
Well, I'm going to give you two answers. One is that things are evolving so quickly. The consumer demand around the experience, their expectations, which will change and has changed rapidly over the last few years, certainly around mobile, around whatever it might be. It might be your waiver implementation. It might be notifications. We've seen, unfortunately, larger customers that have gone that route and be like, well, I'm just going to build this. But they're not technology companies. There are so many things around security and compliance and just consumer experience. I've seen some awful experiences we all have, like trying to book something and like, what am I in? Like, this is like an old Ticketmaster ripoff or something that I'm dealing with. So the other answer is you don't have to pay. You shouldn't. The frustrating thing, especially for our sales team, is sometimes we're walking people through the numbers. Like, I always think if you can charge, and it's the same thing that Greg said, you can charge, if you're charging $100, we're going to take $6. But if your customer's okay to pay it, it's your margin. Like, I'm not driving you, and it's different. I give it an OTA, so you're driving a portion of that business. We're not driving it. We're supporting it. We're providing the technology. We're providing a great experience, providing your security. But we shouldn't be taking, fundamentally, this is more of a, I know I'm on my soapbox here, but like, I think it's hard sometimes to get people to really understand the mathematics, and it can be frustrating. So that's why we're just like, look, we'll just do this. We don't necessarily agree with it, but if this is going to make your life easier, and one day when you get to a scale or you get a finance person that understands the amount of money that you're giving away that you maybe shouldn't be doing, when you think of all the fees, you got credit card fee, you got your ResTech fee, you got your OTA fees, you've got your insurance, but it's a lot. Like, and it just can be frustrating to try to do math class with customers.
When we have leads coming in for WaveRes, and they just frankly do not like the 4 to 6% that they have to tack on their customer pays.
Well, because they feel like, and I hate to be anecdotal here, and I hate to interrupt you, but I'm telling you, we both know why, especially with watersport guys, because they're like, I can get that 6%. You know what I mean? They're like, if I'm going to tack 6% on, I'm going to get that. You damn well know that's what it is. And I've heard almost every operator that's ever talked about ResTech and the 6% thing or any percentage of it, that was the number one thing. Like, I've heard some people fucking go, oh yeah, I don't want my customer to pay it. Like, yeah, no, you think you could get the extra $6.
We do have customers that do that pay us a subscription, whether they're a large enterprise, like in a larger kind of MSA contract, they'll go in and we've suggested when we've had these conversations, you can go in and create a tax, 5% booking fee. It's illegal in some countries to do that, but, and that's theirs. It goes into their pocket. We get our revenue. They get, for whatever reason, an extra uptick on their pricing. And, it's interesting. Like, I think at the end of the day, it's whatever they want. right? And we have the luxury of doing that. If Fair Harbor was to do that today, they can't. They can't flip their business model. Peak can't do it. We're in the position that we can offer both because we have a very sustainable, SaaS is compounding. You have, sure, it's $50 a month or $500 or whatever it is, but very predictable. We know our churn, we know everything. So, and even just going back to COVID, we sustained when I know personally, when we looked at booking volumes dropping throughout the world, those companies were in a really tough spot because their revenue just disappeared. Where, yes, we had some attrition and customers in need, and we gave out, I think, $100,000 in credits. But I like the sustainable nature of it. I think it goes back to what they want.
So, that's funny. You say that. Like, I did have a question. It was like completely off topic, but just about your company and your business. And, so you guys, in the beginning of March 2020, you get your first round of Series A funding.
Yeah.
I mean, was that like, were you just like, man, I'm fucking glad I called that guy? You know what I mean? Because it's literally like a week later, the fucking whole thing, the bottom fell out. So can you walk us through that? I mean, God, you had to just feel incredibly fortunate.
Yeah, it was a crazy time. And so we had been pretty bootstrapped. We did like a small local round several years before that. So just growing on the rate of our customers. But and just to like go a bit broader, like there was so much private equity looming around. There's been this talk of like consolidation for like as long as I remember, like Arrival being open. So I don't know if Greg, you were hit up by those firms that were looking to kind of like amalgamate, and I was like, really? Like
every Arrival I had like a couple of them would hey, let's meet by the bar, and they're some payment company trying to.
Yeah, I know that guy.
Yeah, he looked like he was fresh out of high school, and
he was. I know his name, and I know the company, but I was like, wow, okay. So there's lots of money in the industry. There's lots of attention, which wasn't there 6-7 years ago. Nobody cared. Our customers cared, but you couldn't raise a dime on it. We were super selective, so we have had competitors historically. Some of them are gone that wanted to acquire us. We have, we keep those conversations open. But what we really wanted to make sure is that we knew the opportunity was massive. We were in a good position. I mean, Rizwana can quote that she's the leading independent res tech system, but she's not.
Get 'em.
When it comes to the number of operators, that would be us. But anyway, I'll fast forward. So yeah, we met a really great partner that understood the things that we were doing, that didn't want to come in and like shake things up in a crazy way. They just wanted to invest in our kind of company vision. And so we closed that. So it was actually there was a syndicate, and then there was the lead, which is Framework. We closed this Framework in December, and then we were closing the second. And we were watching the news, thinking like, we have to close the other part of this round, but there's like this weird shit going on in the world. So I just remember like texting on a regular basis the investor, the syndicate investor, and being like, "Can you please sign? Can you please sign this document?" And he was aware. They were aware of what was going on, and this was like going into March, and eventually the deal closed. It was really good timing.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, when I read that date, I was just like, oh my God, man, that's like literally 2 weeks away from
I know.
the apocalypse, man. I guess, wow. That's wild, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Jason, I want to talk some about OTAs because some reservation systems embrace them and some reservations systems shy away from them. Some of the reasons could be due to competition, and it's funny. I say competition, competing for that inventory, because they now when you connect with an OTA with the reservation system, you give that OTA the same real time access than the supplier does. So you said before on the show or just earlier that you would just want to give them the tools and let them make those decisions. You're not necessarily the marketing engine, they're making those choices and you connect with these APIs. I've seen other reservation, WaveRes were one of them. We're going to be connecting with other OTAs. But how do you look at OTAs from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, post arrival, there was like kind of stick it to the man, like go out and fight with the OTAs, primarily like, Fair Harbor and Boken. But I think they're an important part of the ecosystem. I don't think they should be and that they won't like it, but I don't think all bookings should be going through TripAdvisor because of the costs associated with it. I think they're a valuable part, and there's some really interesting things that we're doing later in the year to make sure that primarily organic is your lead, right? So people are coming in, they know about you, they found you, it could be your old school, like whatever it is, billboard or whatever it might be, sandwich board. Our mission is to make sure that availability is optimized from a revenue perspective. So we want to make sure that you're not competing with TripAdvisor organically, but you integrate with TripAdvisor, you integrate with Expedia, you integrate with the other, open APIs, as many as you can, but you should optimize your organic and market present as best you can from a business operations component. If you don't care about the 30%, then it's fine. Like, I think OTAs have a valuable part of this industry. I just don't think they should own the industry. We've seen what happens with that.
Does Checkfront allow for like segmentation, or is it just what I mean is like segmenting your inventory? Can you, like, if I go to Checkfront, can I go like, I only want to give 3 seats to TripShock, and I want to give 2 seats to Expedia and 1 seat to TripAdvisor?
Not so that is, I don't want to let the full cap. It's coming to some. You can a little bit. It depends on the integration. So with Expedia, you can select various amounts of inventory that you want to put online. It's not, frankly, it's not perfect. I think there's a lot more that can be done there. Because ultimately, again, we have the data. We know when you are fully booked organically. We know when you are maybe need some help with some lead gen, or maybe that's time to kind of light up the your OTA or whatever it might be. So it's not perfect though. We'll get there.
Jason, if there are 3 features that really make Checkfront shine, what would those be?
I'm going to go right back to the flexibility. And it's something that for over time, we've kind of like beaten ourselves up a bit. It was like, it is getting too complex. However, as of next week, there is something we've been working on for 2 solid years that is going to market slowly. We're going to roll it out very slowly. So it's actually, I don't say it's a brand new product. It certainly mimics and supports a lot of the functionality that we have currently. It is a bit of a refresh. It's easier to use. It's less complex when it comes to maintaining the balance of abilities to support complex configurations while also making sure that operators aren't losing their minds trying to figure it out. So that flexibility, the broadness of the platform, the ability to both support that tour, the walking tour, and the jet ski rental, and the whatever you want, is really what has allowed us to grow and scale. I think that when we think about the future and the opportunity and the size of it, both vertically and regionally, puts us in a spot to actually quickly leapfrog a lot of the competition. Maybe they're not playing in the same market, but it is that ability for our support team, which is like half of the company, our success team, which is within that kind of customer-facing team, when they come in and they're amazing, to be able to provide a solution that meets, all these crazy, funky requirements that our operators come in with.
The Homer Simpson car. The Homer Simpson features.
But they have your operators, and I've never, like, I would love to, like, I would love to get on, like, play around with Checkfront. Like, I'm always interested in what my company anecdotally has sort of figured out is that it's better for us to optimize our checkout system and to create our product types, and to it's what we make of it. If I have to call your customer service and try and you don't see what I see. You don't know what I know. So does Checkfront have that same availability? Do you have that availability and go and create your own product types and your own different sort of offerings? And would you recommend that people go that route? I mean, I'm assuming that there's like tons of like tutorials and all sorts of educational on the Checkfront back end for operators to be able to do that.
Yeah. So we would be, we're probably the best equipped at a self-service. Like, again, we want, with this new kind of launch, that was like the precipice. It's like, yes, we want great support, but ultimately, like, we want our operators to go in, understand the platform and use it. Like, and if they need a bit of help, we'll give them a bit of help. So other competitors, you need to sign up, you get your demo, you have your account manager, they're going to set up your inventory for you, but it's kind of like, then what? Like, if you just want to go in and change your pricing, you should be able to do it without an account manager or a technical support person there.
Jason, in our case, I would say 90% of our partners are emailing on at least a weekly, if not daily basis to make changes. And the funny thing is we will a lot of times, say, hey, we made this change in the future. Here's how you do it. A, B, C, D, step by step. We give a video tutorial. And a lot of the times, they say, okay, great. Now I know. Well, next week comes along and there's emailing support and asking for the same thing. And it may be something because of the industry we're in. Most of our partners are owner operators. They're not sitting in front of a computer every day in order to make these pricing changes or inventory changes or swapping out certain content. Is that something that you think that can be curbed with better training? Or are we kind of stuck in some type of paradigm?
What are you talking about? We're fucking buffoons, man. What do you want from us, dude? You guys are smart. That's why you guys got your huge tech companies, 100 people. I'm a fucking dummy, man.
I'm saying it's got to be. I mean, Jason, you got 5,000 clients, and I can't imagine like Checkfront has somewhat figured this out, maybe a little bit better than some of the others, because we still struggle with trying to educate and have it more self-serve. And sometimes I wonder, should we, invest in more self-serve stuff, or should we just invest in a larger customer service team? Because I've seen other res tech invest in a large customer service team and a large call center because the latter isn't working, or maybe something is just not jiving.
Yeah, I'm not claiming that we're super perfect at self-serve, but what we do, and we get the same, and I don't know how many tickets we get a day, but it's a significant amount. People ask, certainly onboarding or switching seasons, they need a bit of help and training. What we do pretty well is, yes, there's great support tutorials. Yes, we do. And if there's somebody, if we're walking through even if it's through email, we do the same thing. We'll actually record the screen and send it to them. Here's how I did this, so that they can refer back to it. That goes a long way. And then I think just there's tools that you can install, like Full Story or something, where you can actually look, it's a bit creepy actually, but where you can see where customers are hitting walls, or like they don't know what's happening. They're clicking all over the place. There's good tools for you to understand from a product perspective where your customers are like losing their minds. And those are the ones with this.
It would be better, even more creepy, if you saw where they went right after. Like immediately they go to porn. Fuck this.
No, Kevin, that's just you. It's full story, kind of like Hotjar.
There's a bunch of them. There's like Clicktail and stuff like that. It's just understanding from our product team would look to see where, again, our customers or new trials or prospects are like lost within the application, and
It's like maybe sort of like a generational thing, though, don't you think, though, too? Because right now, like we're like kind of on this like this precipice of everybody finally like accepting res tech, right? Like not everybody was very accepted, like you said in the beginning of the show. You're like, people are keeping like fucking sticky notes or whatever. So it's like patience, guys, because you have a segment of people that are like, fine, I'll come over and I'll do your fancy reservation technology, and then they're like, wait a minute. It would be best used if I were to do this shit myself, like fucking exit left, I think it's also the people that are using the tools. Like you got a lot of older guys that have been in the game, especially in water sports, you know, maybe with the walking tours, you do have a more educated crowd and people that are obviously into education. If you're doing walking tours and explaining history, you know, those type of customers that are probably not afraid to get in the weeds on some of this stuff. But, you know, when you got a guy that's built you know, anywhere from a 5 to 10 or even a $1 million company, and they did it in their own way, bootstrapping meant something completely, like literally, you know, like boots, you know, like I wear boots every day to fucking work. You know, they're maybe not going to be the most like adept at sitting down in front of a computer for long hours, like figuring this shit out. So I think I think as the sort of technology, you know, then this next generation, you're probably going to have more people that are more willing, like, not that I'm young at all. I know I look really young. I look super young, but, you know, guys in their 40s, late 30s.
Spring chicken.
Exactly. I know. It's crazy. People are always like, dude, are you like 17? I'm like, yeah. But regardless, I just think it's also this, it's, first of all, there's a gap of them coming over to the technology. Now the next thing is like, hey, man, fucking YouTube it. You know what I mean? It's become a thing, and it's a relatively short period of time. So
there is that flip, and we've seen it, and even we've seen like someone's son come in and take over his dad's business and be like, what is going on? Like, this is crazy. Like, I can't deal with this. And so there's that shift, which will take lots of time. But I think there's also like an evolution in competing, and some markets don't have it. You're the only like SUP guy on the lake. It's probably okay, but when we think about other ones, like we need to help them step up their game, because they are, you know, somebody else is going to move into town. They're going to have the technology. They're going to be taking bookings at 3 a.m. They're going to have, you know, all the tools to accelerate their business. And then I think the people, whether they have like, I don't know, hand holding or not, they're going to be like, and we've seen it, I need to get ahead of this competitor.
We saw it happen here. Like, I think, Greg, I mean, you've obviously been here longer than I have, but I mean, probably I've witnessed it just in the last, you know, 4 years that I've been here, is that has changed. Like, you are seeing, just even from the front end, the website are changing. But I mean, Jason, you're absolutely right, because that's where that battle is being fought, and people that have traditionally relied on these old school ways of customer acquisition, that's over. That's all over. It's not location or billboards or rack flyers. Like that whole shit is over. I think anybody listening to our show probably knows where we did a show on rack cards, where I think it was 45 minutes of us making fun of rack cards. That was the entirety of the show. I
mean, listen, because there's still like we're on an island, so there's a big ferry, and I'm always admiring like the amount of rack cards and the investment into it. But I think it's consumers that are changing that. The operators just have to, like, it's catch up, yeah, because I mean, it's going to change based on your segment or whatever it is, but it's the consumers driving the need for change. And if you don't adapt to it, sure, you might have a nice little lifestyle business that you can stretch out for another 5 years, but I think that's just going to change quicker than we even think.
Are you going to be at Arrival this year, Jason?
Yes, I absolutely. I mean, unless the world tips over again, I'll be at Arrival, and I think we'll be up in Berlin.
Trust me, dude. Florida's fucking will be fine. Promise you. And no matter what the rest of the fucking world does, Florida's going to be like, we're doing what we want, bitch.
Which is what you've done.
That's how we did it this year, and it was fucking
14
awesome.
months, basically.
It's so weird. I can't even like go anywhere else, because I don't even know like what proper etiquette is. Because I come in, if I go in like not masked up or somewhere else, and people are just like, "Whoa," and I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm from Florida."
So that's all you gotta say. Just wear your Marlins hat or something.
Neck tattoos, man. They know, bud.
Jason, I got two questions for you. Do you think that the mobile phone is more of a factor in the rise of res tech, or is it consumer behavior?
Well, it's both. I mean, it would definitely be both. It's the consumers with the mobile phones. I mean, for a destination, like when you're in whatever Vegas or wherever you might be, like more and more people just be looking for what to book. And that's where like Google's jumped into the game there. Like they know that you know, kind of mobile, and we've seen it with our own statistics, and it's absolutely rising. The amount of people booking I mean, it got squashed a bit last year, but where they are versus like my dad who plans his trip out like 17 months in advance, like they're there, just looking for something quick to do. Maybe you're at a conference and you got a 3-hour break, you're going to go do this, or you're with your family. Like the mobile component is integral to that. And again, to go back to the other consumer behavior, like if you're not there and you've got this like shitty old yellow website, which I've seen many of. It's like yellow.
What's
with, like,
wrong with yellow, dude?
I just like, it just breaks my heart as to the missed opportunity there, because you have to be there to get those bookings. You have to be mobile optimized. You have to be, within Reserve with Google or wherever that placement is, where I'm going to look for something to do while I'm sitting having some French fries. If they're not there, they're not going to get the booking.
There's a color spectrum in marketing though, right? There's like different colors, different colors have, like, I don't know. I was like, when we were working on Trexie, that we were talk like, what do you want your color palette to be? And I'm just like, I don't know, fucking like maroon and gold, man. Something that really stands out. And we started talking about the color spectrum, and I mean, I knew that to a degree, but I had no idea. It's like each color had like designations of emotions for people, and it's really fucking weird.
It is quite bizarre.
So, I guess my last question here is, what do you think, the next 5 years looks like for Res Tech?
I mean, it's going to be I think it's going to pop, frankly. Like, I think, again, we chatted on that. I think there's going to be a bump in things, and things are going to recover, and everybody wants to get out of their house and go to Italy or go to New Zealand or whatever. So we're going to see that. We're going to see the, resurgence of travel. I think from a technology perspective, I don't think there's going to be this mass consolidation that has been looming. I think you might start to see some companies come together or do joint ventures or something. I think some of the smaller operators, and some have already gone out of business.
I don't think it makes sense. Like, just imagine if you purchased my company, my clients are not going to want to stay. They're going to want to stay where they're at, or most of them would, because that's their whole team is trained that way. It would take years. So basically you would have to support your dev team would have to support a second system. And I guess the whole idea would be to move those folks to Checkfront and then dissolve. I mean, that's kind of like when Fair Harbor took over. Was it Zerv?
Well, it is when
they bought the customers, but. Zerv. I mean, that's a bad example, but just imagine if you bought.
This is a segment of the show where fucking Greg tried to sell his company again. We talked about this before, okay? Stop trying to sell WaveRes, okay? This is not interesting.
But I mean, in reality, though, just because we actually had an opportunity to buy a smaller software, and we thought about it, and we're like, well, we would have to support this software until these folks felt comfortable enough to move over to WaveRes. And who knows how long that could have been. They could have just left and went somewhere else. So the whole acquisition would have been almost pointless unless these folks moved over, integrated to our software. So the consolidation thing, to me, doesn't make a whole lot of sense from the software perspective, unless you have your goal is to operate both systems independently and over a long course of time merge them, which is very hard to do. I mean, even when HomeAway was acquired by Expedia, or should I say when HomeAway acquired all these vacation rental property management systems, they operated like 7 of them independently for years. Because some of these vacation rental companies were so built into these systems that they couldn't just switch them and consolidate them. It wasn't easy. So that's why I feel, just from my experience being in the space for 10 years, that's where I feel the issue is that it's not easy to just consolidate all these companies into one.
It's a nightmare. And I definitely don't think the gobbler approach of I'm going to take you and I'm going to take your customers, that's not going to work. For exactly what you said, the 1 + 1 + 1 + 1, you got these like HomeAway style. This is boring to me. So
yeah, that's why I think it makes a lot of sense for Bo Kuhn to acquire Bokun acquired, TripAdvisor acquired Bokun, and Booking.com and Charter Fair Harbor. Just noticing how OTAs are acquiring reservation systems and not reservation systems acquiring other reservation systems. It all kind of makes sense because, they could add that, that entity to their existing ecosystem and benefit from it. So, the
TripAdvisor Bokun thing didn't seem to really sit well with the industry, though, as a general rule, did it?
It was just weird.
It was definitely weird because because it kind of felt like at that point then all of your eggs are in one basket and they own your site and they own your traffic and they're reselling your traffic to you. Like it's definitely a weird flex, as the kids say.
It sounds like they're really trying to figure out that whole relationship between Viator, TripAdvisor, and Bokun. It seems because listen,
you have a great standardization then. Wonderful, great. But then what happens? We go all the way back 40 episodes, which you know where I stand on this. Then now we're commoditizing someone's brand. And with standardization, in my opinion, yes, it becomes more streamlined and optimized, but it also becomes more homogenized, which is the antithesis to what it is that we do.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think I knew Yalty. I think he's departed, but it's fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with acquiring companies. It makes sense from a business perspective, sure. From those OTAs acquiring ResTech, I'm sure there's going to be other movement. I think there's going to be other things happening. I don't have any headwinds on that, but I just think the operators were confused and kind of held at ransom. And I don't know how many times they've changed their prices without notice. I just find that from a founder perspective, very unfair. Yes, they have, public companies, they have their revenue mandates, but and I would agree with Rizwan on this, the independent component means that we're in charge. We're in charge of our destination. We don't have a parent company that's dictating based on the requirements of their shareholders what our operators should do. Yes, we need to survive and make money, but I think the independent players, and they're collectively, there's 3, 4, 5 really decent ones, will really grow in the next 3 to 5 years. And, eventually they need to be acquired to support their shareholders. But I think, and I'm obviously biased to it, but I think the independent providers will innovate at a faster rate. And I think you're going to see some really interesting things happen there that support the operators, not some dude in a boardroom.
My final question, being that weed has been legalized across basically the whole country, has British Columbia lost its hold on basically being home of the greatest weed of all time?
Probably, but the amount of dispensaries popping up here is crazy. I think there's 4 of them up the road. So
I remember when I was a kid. I don't smoke weed, but what I remember as a kid, I remember just being planning this trip in my head. I'm all right, first I'm going to go to Amsterdam, then I'm going to go to BC, man. They got the greatest buds, and I always wondered it because I always thought there was weed tourism in British Columbia, right? That was a thing for some years, wasn't it?
I guess, but it wasn't legal. So you'd have to know the person, I think. I know nothing about this stuff.
Oh, do you have a hookup?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Did I ever tell you, Kevin, I got married in Niagara Falls. I got married in Canada. I know it's on the other side, but I had a good time.
So does that de facto make you Canadian?
No.
Kind of.
I don't know if you know this about us, but we're from Detroit. We were right.
Yeah,
we were close by.
Well, I toured.
That was Windsor was the place where everyone went because you could gamble at 19 and all that.
Yeah, so. I've been deported from Canada 4 times because my band when I was a young man and we used to tour we would tour in Canada all the time because we would cross the bridge in Detroit and go over to Windsor and then we would go up to Burlington and we never made it out that way, but we would go into Toronto and that whole area and
Who goes to Burlington?
What's that?
Who goes to Burlington?
Man, this is a weird side note, but we went to this show in Burlington at this bar called Moe's, and it was a venue. There was a strip club there too. It was the Golden something or another.
Right beside the Red Lobster, I think.
So we went there, and there was 150 kids there, and they knew who our band was, and I've never fucking been to Burlington in my life or anything about it, but they knew like the words to our songs, and we had this great experience there. So every time, like if we were playing like New York or anywhere on the East Coast, we'd be like we're gonna go up through Burlington, we're gonna go play Toronto, and I got ejected from Canada quite a few times.
I grew up in Toronto, so
yeah, man.
Doesn't surprise me, Kevin.
What? Come on, man. I am an upstanding citizen.
Jason, we want to thank you for joining us on the show. It was very insightful. And I'd like to know, how can people get more information about Checkfront?
Yeah, you can just Google it, go to the website. So there's just a free trial. You can go in, poke around. There's instant support that you can get. It's right there. Ready to go.
Yeah, and
we don't put any
good sales pitch, dude.
That's why I'm not in sales. Let's Google us. Checkfront.com.
Yeah, I swear to God, like that's the one thing like we always try and tell our guests, because at first in the early few episodes, people would come on and they'd be like, if you come to our establishment, you will get the best customer service. And we're like, no, don't do that. Please don't do that. So good organic, not pitching your product, dude.
Well, we'll see you both in Orlando, hopefully.
Absolutely, yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. Yeah, I'm gonna get fucking kicked out of Orlando.
You'll be the first person to get kicked out of Arrival.
I was gonna say. I've seen
I'm making it a point.
Yeah, well, we just signed our we're sponsoring this year, so we just signed our sponsorship this year, so we're pretty excited. I mean, if it's gonna be in Florida, that's kind of like our home base with everything. So we're happy just to see people face to face is going to be awesome.
Yeah, I can't wait, dude. I'm going to wear like pajamas. I'm going to do something crazy, because that was like my first conference I ever went to. Did I ever tell you the story, Greg, about my salmon pants?
I remember the salmon pants.
I had the salmon. So I had salmon pants. Like I was really trying to fit in, Jason. I was like, it's like a tech conference, and everybody's got their comfortable shoes. Like, I mean, don't let all my tattoos fool you. I'm not like a real conference kind of guy, So I show up there and I'm like trying to dress up and like be like worldly. So I see these like salmon pants, like Ralph Lauren. They're like $18 on the clearance rack. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to wear salmon pants and I'm going to pull this off. And I'm walking and I hear this like European voice from behind me. And they're like, excuse me, sir. I don't know if that's European, but I'm like, oh, they're pointing at my pants. And I'm like, oh, yes. I'm about to get a compliment from some Europeans on my salmon pants because I look so fucking worldly. And they're like, the sticker. I'm like, what? And I look back and I had the pant size sticker on the back. I was like, Kevin, I'm laughing like hysterically. And I went there by myself. So I didn't really know anybody. So I'm just like standing at the window, like beat red face, like laughing in my salmon fucking pants. This year, I'm going to wear a onesie the entire time.
That's awesome. Great.
Yeah.
I'm going to look out for it.
Oh, man. All right, well, Jason, we appreciate you coming on the show, and yes. As always, everybody, keep it awkward.
You've been listening to the Awkward Watersport Guys podcast. If you're in the water sport industry, this is the podcast that brings the business perspective to parasailing, jet and ski boat rentals, sailing, snorkeling, and everything else. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from this show. Be sure to sign up to our email list at watersportpodcast.com and subscribe in your favorite podcast app. We'll see you next time, and thanks for listening.